Does that mean we're good? Hello and welcome to the first council countdown of 2025. My name is Chloe G and I am here with our amazing public information officer, Ms. Hannah Nichols. Thanks for joining me here. New year.
Thanks as always for having me.
So Hannah, can you tell us a bit more about what we can expect here on this fine Monday evening?
Absolutely. So this is our, as you mentioned, first county council meeting in 2025, and it's been a couple weeks and a lot has changed. We're thrilled to have you tuning in today, and we've got a packed schedule, so we're going to jump right in. For those of you following along at home, as always, I say it every week, you can view meeting schedules, minutes, agendas, and packets online as BeaufortCountySC.gov. So today we are going to kick off with a new committee for me, but I think it's a long-standing committee if you've been following county politics for any number of years. We are going to kick off with the Natural Resources Committee starting at 4 p.m., and that's going to be followed by County Council today at 6. If those times sound a little bit different for our regular viewers, you are absolutely correct. We're kicking off an updated schedule for council meetings where you'll see later start times, varying locations, and as I mentioned, the Natural Resources Committee coming back. So I am just going to touch on a few highlights today. Today at committee, you're going to see several green space items, followed by an annual report from the Rural and Critical Land Preservation Board. And then the county council meeting is going to start at 6, and that is going to be the first meeting overseen by our new chair and vice chair. Councilmember Alice Howard is our new chair, and Councilmember Tab Tabernick is our new vice chair. So that's another change you can mark down for 2025. Highlights of that meeting are going to include the third reading of an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2025 budget, second reading of an ordinance to lease office space out to the Mitchellville Preservation Project, and the first reading of an ordinance involving placing land purchased by Project Micro into our existing multi-county industrial park. There's going to be a proclamation recognizing Medico-Legal Death Investigation Professionals Week, and tonight is also the debut of our new public comment format for council meetings, where rather than the two split periods of one in the beginning and one at the end, there's just going to be one 30-minute period for public comment at the beginning. Those are just some highlights on the two meetings and does not include or cover everything on the agenda or what's going to be coming forward. So if you are looking for more details, as always, we encourage you to visit BeaufortCountySC.gov. And I'm going to hand it off to Chloe for some announcements.
Sounds like a lot of changes are coming, but things sound like they're going to be very exciting and a step in the right direction, especially the moving the times of the meetings. I know that was something a lot of people wanted and were concerned about.
Absolutely. So, it's all about getting that public engagement. But there was so much, I almost needed a sip of water. My mouth went dry.
Yeah, I hear that. So like you said, getting into some of the announcements, tomorrow is also a very busy day with community meetings. So first things first, Councilmember York Glover is going to host a community meeting to give a general update on broadband access for St. Helena Island. The meeting is going to be at 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday, January 14th at the St. Helena Library branch at 6355 Jonathan Francis Senior Drive, and it's going to feature guest representatives from Brightspeed, Hargray, now known as Sparklight, and Comcast. At 6 p.m. tomorrow, County Council member Gerald Dawson is going to host a district meeting for the Big Estate/Jenkins community to discuss updates on the new Community Recreation Center. The meeting will be held at Booker T. Washington Center at 182 Booker T. Washington Circle in Yemassee. Beaufort County Parks and Recreation Director Eric Brown will be present. And he will be there to present the community with an update of repairs scheduled for the new recreation center. Also on the following day, Wednesday, Nexus Care Beaufort County, in partnership with Beaufort County Parks and Rec, will have a free naloxone naloxone and medication disposal available at 2 locations, beginning at 3 p.m., lasting until 7 p.m. The products will be available at the Burton Wells Recreation Center and the Buckwalter Recreation Center. No appointments required. This is the first one of 2025, but definitely not the first one that Nexus Care has held. They hold these periodically, and it's something really great, positive thing that they're able to do for the residents of Beaufort County.
Yeah, if you haven't visited one of these distribution events, you should, because it's always just really handy to have Narcan on hand in case of an emergency. You never know what could happen. Beaufort County Register of Deeds, Patsy Green, would like to remind all county homeowners that the County Register of Deeds office offers a service to provide property owners with email alerts anytime a document affecting a name or a specific property is recorded by the County Register of Deeds. This is super important if you're looking out for fraud in the new year, wanting to protect yourself and your property. This alert service immediately sends an email notification whenever a document is recorded with the owner's name, property ID, parcel, and it's free of charge. Property owners should contact law enforcement if there's a reason to believe fraud has occurred. It's important to note this service can't prevent fraud, but that early notification is super important and will help you get ahead of it and get in touch with the right authorities. So you can sign up for that free service by visiting the Beaufort County Register of Deeds website. It's right there on the homepage, and you can follow the links to register. It's quick, easy, and it's free.
To go a little bit further with that, some things to note that there is no limit to the number of subscribers for a particular property, legal description, or party name. And of course, it's like you said, for individuals who want to keep track. So talking about some more wonderful events, our Beaufort County Passive Parks Department has an exciting nature program schedule, including birding, trail walks, and special events to help you take it outside. This week, join naturalist Destiny at Whitehall Park at 9 a.m. January 15th for birding. The events are, of course, free and open to the public to come and join, and they help attendees enjoy wildlife and beauty in our area. Contact Passive Parks naturalist destiny.rains@bcgov.net for more information, or visit our website to see the whole program schedule. If you can't make it this Wednesday, don't fret, because Destiny hosts these meetings all year long, and they're a lot of fun. They're a great way to get outside and enjoy some of the natural beauty we have here in Beaufort County. I know we've both attended at least one event.
Yes.
And they are very relaxing and just overall a good time.
Yeah, Destiny does a great job, and we are just racking up on the free public education events, meetings, and workshops this week. The Solid Waste and Recycling Department is offering a variety of workshops this spring entitled Go Green. They are free, open to the public, and the segments are Stormwater 101, Composting 101, and Recycling 101. So each one's going to be held a different month, and this week attendees can learn all about Stormwater 101 at the Bluffton Library branch tomorrow at 10:30, and at the St. Helena Library branch at 4 p.m. this coming Wednesday. You can view that entire schedule and get more information at BeaufortCountySC.gov. I think it's under the news section because it's one of those upcoming events. And we'll be sure to post about this more regularly on our socials as well.
It is so exciting to be able to host all these events. I mean, that's everything just this week that we're hosting.
Yeah.
Starting 2025 off on a very high, very positive note. I'm really excited to see everything that Beaufort County can bring to the public, and like you said, the free events as well. Mm-hmm. With that, we would like to thank everyone for tuning in here to BCTV. You can check out all of our programs on cable channels on Sparklight, Comcast, Spectrum, and of course, as always, streaming live at BeaufortCounty.tv and through the free BCTV app available on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire. Beaufort County Television has also launched a new channel, 24/7 Beaufort County Traffic Channel. So wherever you're watching us from right now, you can continue to watch as we have jam-packed, exciting programming all day long, and of course, never miss a council meeting. So, yeah.
We appreciate it. And as the room fills up, we want to just remind our viewers at home, you can keep in touch. You can download the agenda packets. You can check out upcoming meetings all on our website. We are so happy to have you tuning in to today's meeting. We have the Natural Resources Committee starting at 4, and then our regular county council meeting will start at 6 p.m. tonight. Now, these changes in time are a little bit of an adjustment with the 2025 schedule. There's lots of new changes, new fresh perspectives on the new year, so we're excited to have you joining us even in this later hour.
All right. Well, as we see time ticking down here, just a little over 4 minutes left, I think that's going to do it for our first County Council Countdown of the year. Thank you for joining me here, Hannah, and we will see everybody back at our next countdown.
Thanks for having me.
into order. And want to acknowledge at this time that all members of the Natural Resource Committee are present. And we have members that are currently here and that are not part of the Natural Resource Committee, but they're here. And we also have Joe Passerman on virtual. So if you would rise with me and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, I appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is my an official meeting as chairperson of the County Council Natural Resource Committee. I will pledge to you, council members, to allow each and every one of you to speak on agenda items, making sure that they are germane to the topic, and pledge to staff to be as respectful to staff and also to the general public. And I ask that you do likewise to me, because this is all new for me. So I appreciate you. We're going to move the agenda. Item number 3, the statement has been given to the press and the public that this meeting is open to the public, so that notice has been sent out. And there is a need for an approval for the committee meeting of November the 2nd, 2024, which is the Community Service and Land Use Committee that was held. So the chair will entertain a motion for that.
To approve the agenda?
No. Is the agenda? Oh.
I'll move that.
No, you're right. I jumped that. Approve the agenda. Yes, ma'am.
I'll move.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Seconded. Before we vote on this, I want Mrs. Howard to make a statement to council members, and I will do likewise as her leader, as she provided leadership on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What we'd like for all the members of who are here, who are committee members or otherwise participating, to, when it calls for a vote, to do a show of hands, even if it's 100% agreement, we'll do a show of hands instead of without objection. So, just a minor change.
Okay.
So, yeah,
so
it would be
with that
yays
in
and nays.
mind, all those who are voting to approve the agenda, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, it is unanimous. Thank you. And now I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll motion that.
Okay, Ms. Brown is motion. Do I get a second? On the minutes for November the 12th, 2024.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Logan. Any question? Those in favor of the minutes being approved, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, it is unanimous. Thank you. We're down to the citizen comments, and I will read the statement here. All public comments. Every member of the public who is recognized to speak shall limit comments to 3 minutes and observe the following protocol. Address the chair, and in speaking, avoid disrespect to council or any personalities. Confine themselves to questions under the jurisdiction of council, and be mindful and respectful of those who are present and others who may be watching on television. Thank you. So with that in mind, I have 4 public members who would like to address council. I ask that you come to the podium up front, and that's Gloria Owens, and it's regarding green space.
Hello there. I actually haven't planned anything. I just wanted to say that I live in Rose Hill, and am very concerned about the Willow Run track, which is part of this Green Space Initiative that I know is part of the agenda today. And one of the things that most concerns us is the potential road that would go right along most of Rose Hill's west side in a very limited space between our boundary and wetlands. And there is concern about noise pollution, water quality, as well as wildlife back there. If you look at a Google map of Bluffton, it's one of the last big tracts of woods in Bluffton. And while it's amazing if green space would save that space, to put a paved road through it kind of flies in the face of green space. I would much rather see a gravel road, opportunity for schools to use that for education about wetlands, maybe a bike path, something that would allow the public to enjoy that for generations to come, rather than simply more development. So that's what I wanted to share today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. Then I have Mike Hagan.
I want to thank the members of the council for taking their time to hear what we have to say, and the members of the Green Space Committee for working on preserving our environment. This afternoon's agenda includes a recommendation to begin due process on property owned by Field Hills Conservancy. It's part of the Buckwalter, used to be called Willow Run. I would ask that the advisory committee and the council members view this application with great skepticism. The town, in a strategic planning session in October of '24, announced they planned to buy an 80-foot wide easement through that property for the purpose of building a connector road between 278 and the proposed 5B, the road that just won't die. The plan is to sell the land to green space subject to that easement. A majority of the property is wetlands. The fact the proposed roadway will consume a majority of the high ground. Such a roadway would not be compatible with any conservation purpose and will only serve to further the development goals of the town. It's doubtful that there'll be enough dry ground left to even call it a passive park. Look at the many local roads we have around here and see how the wetlands adjacent to those roads are filled with trash. Trash that's almost impossible to get to because of the wetlands. In effect, Bluffton wants to put a superhighway through a proposed conservation area to allow future development at county taxpayers' expense. It's a difficult decision, but any agreement to use green space funds to buy that property subject to an 80-foot road easement simply facilitates the town's objectives and denigrates the goals of the Green Space Initiative, which people in Beaufort County overwhelmingly approved. Lastly, imagine going to an ice cream shop with the town. They order a hot fudge sundae and proceed to consume the whipped cream, the cherry, the hot fudge, and the ice cream. They then hand you the empty bowl and ask you to cover the bill. That's what we're talking about here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan. The next person is Tony Lamartiana.
You're close there, La Martina. Siciliano.
Oh, okay. I can remember that name.
Thank you for
Yeah.
for attention and to hear these comments. These properties, as you've heard, includes wetlands. In wetlands, you have wildlife. The greatest benefit to the people that live in this area when they talk about moving to this area is the wildlife. To see the birds, different, we have fox, we have just a multitude of wildlife that is it's just so important to this area. The wetlands themselves for this county is already well over 20% pervious to impervious surfaces. You can't get, May River's already shut down crustacean fishing. The things are happening in the other rivers, such as, the Colleton, et cetera. Fish species are being shut down or controlled more tightly. That impacts the environment, it impacts the ecology. Now, as to where the water goes, every land purchase involves a drainage plan. That drainage plan, given the high ground, the minimal high ground included, that water has to go somewhere. It's going to run off into the adjacent communities, which means Rose Hill. If it's tapped into the Rose Hill drainage system, it could very well cause Rose Hill some extensive, expensive upgrades to their drainage system. That's not something that we should have to bear, and it's not something that we would approve of. The north-south connector, if it's built, either by the school or the town of Bluffton, will have commercial development. That will exacerbate the situation, creating additional traffic, additional congestion, and safety issues. If you happen to pass school zones, you see the long lines of parents picking up and dropping off kids that spills over into the traffic on the major roadways. That's not good, it's not safe, and it shouldn't be allowed. The situation favors no one and creates issues that can be averted by building schools in areas with ample space for their own development purposes and their own school use. It does, and as far as the overall thing goes for the town of Bluffton, they're the only people that benefit from this in tax
You have
revenue.
30 seconds if you want to continue.
Okay. It is a matter that the town is pushing for this. It's for their development purposes. They produced a paper several years ago that had 9 points of why they wanted to do it. 6 of the 9 had to do with development potential and tax revenue, even though they have said consistently, oh, it's not about that, but it is. Thank you.
And the last person on the list is coming up, Joe Mack.
Good evening. Happy 12 days into the new year. Joe Mack, City of Beaufort, resident. These comments are about a piece of property in Mr. Dawson's district. I visited the property about 8 years ago, and it was by chance. I didn't know I was going to be speaking about this 8 years later. The property is McPhersonville Road. I think it's known as Buckfield. So I had decided to go to Hampton on a bicycle to see someone, and I didn't want to burn up the car with the gas. So I had mapped it out, and I took a right on McPhersonville Road from 17 and across from a church. And when I got to the foot of the road, it never crossed my mind that it might be a dirt road. So it was a dirt road. So I biked through this property and had some skinny tires. It was bikeable. And that was what I call the woods. So it's one of the more memorable bike rides that was off-road. I had 4 or 5 of very memorable bike rides throughout Beaufort County. I even passed a pickup truck going the other way, which was a total shocker because this was out in the country. But I made it to Hampton, and I came back, and then I decided for the heck of it, I would measure it. And it was 2 miles, the dirt road. And then, so when I was going north to Hampton, I left out a part. So when I came out into a neighborhood, which was another shocker. It was complete peace and quiet. And that's what all these rides have in common. So, but some time went by, and somebody told me it had got fenced off from 17 access when you turn to go north. I don't know how it is today. I don't know much about that land. It looks like a good purchase to me. And I rode it one other time, because see, when I came back from Hampton, I didn't make it all the way to Beaufort. My knees started acting up, and so then I finally hitched a ride at the Whale Branch River. I had 10 miles to go. I ended up biking about 80 miles that day. It was October, the first time. And then
That's 30 seconds, go ahead.
I wanted to make it there and back on a bicycle. So I made a second attempt. You know, I was trying to hitch a ride in Sheldon, couldn't find one. I finally hitched a ride, guy was getting off work at school. So I took a second attempt in August. It was harder than hell. Didn't even make it out of Yemassee. Then I did it. So when I did that one, I rode that dirt road again. And then the third time, I did
Finish your thoughts.
I did it around Easter time. And I went a different way. But it's 48 miles one way with the dirt road. And then you go another way, I thought it was going to be longer, but it was shorter. It was 43 miles. So that property, I was just, and you all dissect all this, so somebody knows about this fence, I'm sure, in Mr. Dawson's district. He probably knows it better than anybody. But I was just about the access and the tunnel. You know, we talk about all these tree canopies. Last point, did we talk about all these tree canopies? When I rode it about 8 years ago, you couldn't even see the sky. It was so beautiful. So it looked a good purchase. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We're going to move the agenda, and our next item on the agenda is our Assistant County Administrator report, Mr. Atkinson.
Good afternoon to everyone. So when this PDF comes up, please do not be shocked at the amount of information that's on it. It's really not as bad as it appears at first glance. Does everyone have a physical copy that's on the dais of this spreadsheet? If you don't, I have a few extras. So over the course of 2024, staff has made an effort to bring different departments forward and share details about the different operational components within building codes, within our floodplain management, CRS efforts. Planning and zoning has been before you, and we've talked a lot about code enforcement. So what I want to do, since we just came out of 2024 and we're at the beginning of a new year, is I want to share a little bit about the volume and give you information. The reason this is so cumbersome, we're going to look at the far left column and the far right column. Everything in the middle is by month. So the totals are on the right, the buckets are listed on the left, and then if you look across the top, it's every month of the year. And the reason we provide it this way is so that we can see trends and we can see the distribution of the workload throughout the year. So this particular slide, this particular matrix is for the Building Codes Department. This is our Building Services Department. So I'm going to go down the left-hand side, and then I'm going to read the totals that are on the right. For calendar year 2024, miscellaneous commercial residential total permits sold were 4,389. This is unincorporated Beaufort County only. Total permit fees collected on those permits is $1.735 million, and we added almost $500 million worth of value to the built environment. That's the building construction valuation. That's the third item listed. That's what the valuation, excluding mobile homes. New construction, to break it apart farther, we sold 10 new commercial construction permits. We had 190 other commercial construction permits. That would be renovations, additions, things like that. New construction, that's new builds, new buildings. New residential, which would be new homes, 485 were added this year. Other residential, which would make up additions, renovations, things of that nature, is 2,614. Mobile home registrations, we registered 374 mobile homes. About 60% of those are replacements, 40% are new. So if you want to do the math on that. The reason the fee collected is so small is because state law limits us to $5 per registration. That's the most we can collect for each registration. So that's why it says $5 each on there. Our miscellaneous permits, which is our mechanical permits, that's HVAC, electrical, et cetera, we sold almost 1,100 of them. Total plan reviews, just for building permits, 1,069 physical plan reviews were completed. That's 98 commercial and 971 residential. And then for inspections, we completed 16,350 individual inspections. That included 12,805 site visits, or what we call stops, and then miles logged was just shy of 100,000 miles. We have 6 full-time inspectors in the Building Codes Department, and then we have our deputy director, who also serves as our fire marshal, who does some high-level inspections, and our building official also participates in that. So I hope you find that useful. I mean, you can see that we're very busy across the board, and we've maintained about these same levels for the past few years. COVID, we thought it was going to slow down, and it actually sped up through COVID.
Chuck?
So you have any questions about this particular chart?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Do you drill down between incorporated and unincorporated?
It's just unincorporated. So
This is just unincorporated?
This is just unincorporated.
Thank you.
So if you were to ask Hilton Head, Town of Bluffton, all of them
Yeah.
for their reports, they would have a report similar to this to show what they do inside their municipal jurisdictions.
This is incredible.
It is incredible.
Thank you.
It's busy every day. And something I want to point out about those inspections, we get asked about our backlog. We don't have a backlog. If you call for an inspection today, we make every effort to complete that inspection list the next business day. The only time that we do not is if someone goes home sick, or if there's some type of an accident and they can't finish their day, or inclement weather. Those are really the only reasons why we don't get the inspections done that are requested today, done the following business day. So we don't have a backlog on inspections. So. And I do plan on having the Building Codes Department come in and talk about their internal process, what they look for in plan reviews, what some of our challenges are under the statewide building code and so forth. Any other questions related to this slide before I go to the next one?
Just one more, if I can.
Sure.
With all these inspectors out there and the amount that you do, we, working in conjunction with the town of Hilton Head, we're creating a master drainage plan, right? All these things are connected. All of these, do we have the ability to team up, and as we inspect these properties, can we see how the drainage goes? Can we help our stormwater people in any way, being out there as much as we are? I mean, does it make sense to,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
So this is just for the structures.
Yeah.
This doesn't include site inspections done by stormwater, which they also do some zoning inspections, which
Okay.
that's a separate item. But there is a bit of crossover, but we communicate back and forth as it relates to flood. I know stormwater does the same thing, but what I'm sharing here, this is strictly the building, the vertical building.
I appreciate it. It's good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
When you start getting into it and break it apart on those layers, it gets way more complicated than just this spreadsheet.
Chuck, thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions on this?
Yeah, no, there's two things. Your mobile home permits was 374.
Yes, sir.
And new construction residential was 485.
New homes, yes, sir.
Should I assume that most of the residential was south of the Broad and most of the mobile homes north of the Broad?
So it's a split. When you look at mobile home registrations, I guess I do need to say that we register mobile homes for the entire geographic area to include municipalities, but very few of them, mobile homes actually go in there. But it's kind of an even split. There's a number of mobile home parks south of the Broad. There's probably a higher percentage. I can break that out for you if you want me to, but there's probably more north than south, but it's not as big a split as you would think.
Oh, okay. That's good to hear. And the other thing is that you have a value on residential of almost $500,000, but you didn't put any value on commercial. That's important for me. You just know that I would love to know.
So the valuation is everything. So the total permits at the top, that's miscellaneous, commercial, and residential. That's all of them. And the $500 million valuation includes all of permits.
All of it,
Yes, sir.
residential
All of
and
them.
commercial?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can break these out. If anybody has any questions, feel free to email me. We can break this out any way you
No,
want.
it's fine. You explain that. That's good.
All right, great. So the next one,
Go ahead.
so the next slide I have up here, I want to talk about the volume that's taken place in planning and zoning, and then talk about our code enforcement actions. I'll go through these very quickly. Development permits, which include site work, commercial projects, and the like. We had 28 of those come through our SRT, and we issued those 28 development permits. Zoning permits that would include existing lots of record, standalone structures on already developed sites and new homes. That's 1,633 zoning permits were issued. And stormwater permits associated with all of those permits is 481 of them, with a total of 2,142 permits coming out of that department.
Chuck, what does a stormwater permit permit you to do?
Sure, there's two different types. So for residential, you have on-lot calculations where you have to keep your stormwater on your lot for a pre-calculated period of time or depth of rain before it starts to run off. For residential, it's a formula that they run through on a spreadsheet, and it has to do with pervious and impervious surface on that lot. And they drain them to rain gardens that have a specific capacity, so that as you have rainfall events, it doesn't just sheet flow. It has to run to a pooling area, and then there's a pre-calculated formula that says, if you have this much pervious, impervious, this is how much square footage you need in your rain garden to support holding that water for a specified period of time on the lot.
So the permit allows the work to be done, to conform with what
It does.
you said?
It does, but it pre-calculates how the work should be
I
done
get it.
also.
Yeah.
For commercial projects where you have what we call BMPs, best management practices, stormwater ponds, drains, things of the like, then you would actually go to the stormwater department, and they would run calculations, and they actually have a stormwater plan for those types of developments.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it's really on a case-by-case, scope of work type, case-by-case basis. So code enforcement actions, as I have repeated a number of different times, our goal, first and foremost with code enforcement, is education. If you let folks know what the rules are, almost in every case, they will comply with the rules. Most violations exist just because people don't know exactly what the rules are, and I think this lays that out. So notice of violations. If there is a violation that's found, there are a couple of different ways we do notice of violations. We can do written letters, we can do door hangers. We issue the notice of violation. You see the subcategories there. We've issued 669 calendar year 2024. There is a period that folks can come into compliance. If they do not come into compliance after our officers and different staff have worked with them, educated them, given them a path forward for resolving the issue, then we issue a final notice of violation, which is akin to a line in the sand, right? If you don't complete these tasks that you know you're supposed to do in X number of days, then a citation will be issued, and then you get to go to court, and nobody wants to do that. We issued 6 out of those 181 final notice of violation. We issued 6 citations last year. So our education program and the way that we are working with the citizens of Beaufort County, it works. We only had to write 6 to go to court. So we're proud of that. We closed 516 cases. I know that doesn't add up, and that's because we have overlap from 23 into the first part, and we have some still going into 25. It was an election year. We confiscated 613 signs. Those are typically the little stomp signs that are on the side of the road. We hold those for a period of time, notify folks that we can, and then we dispose of them after a certain amount of time. Stop work orders, we issued 50. This is where we have active work being done in violation on the site that is witnessed by our code enforcement officers. And when we need the work to stop, whatever it is, we issue a stop work order along with that notice of violation. Any questions about that?
Okay.
I had one question.
Ms. Hall?
What about abandoned trailers? They're always a problem, aren't they?
Yes, ma'am. So when we get into unfit dwellings, that's an entirely separate process that's regulated under state law.
Oh,
We have to do, there are a number of steps to that, and it typically takes over a year to get those resolved if we have to go through the whole process. But it's lengthy, and I'll be happy to come back and give another
I was just curious.
talk on how that works. Yes, ma'am. All right, if you don't have any questions about that,
Let me just yield to Mr. Passerman, because I can't see you. Do you have any question?
I do not at this time, but is there enforcement of abandoned boats?
Abandoned boats. So that would be a vehicle. Yes, sir. Now, if it's a junk boat, just like a junk vehicle, on the land within our jurisdiction, that is a different conversation than if it's in the marsh within the waters of the state. So, and DNR really gets in the driver's seat with that, and I know we've partnered in the past, but that's a very complex process. So I hope that answers your question. Yes, sir.
Yes.
So as part of my report, I do want to point out that there's sort of an anomaly, if you will, on the agenda. You're going to hear a project called North Widgeon, and it's on the agenda twice,
Right.
which may seem a little odd. But the way the agenda is set up, the first part is green space, and the last part is rural and critical. Widgeon is a rural and critical project that's coming forward, and we are using green space potentially as a funding source. So that's why you see it on there twice. There's a discussion under rural and critical to bring it forward as a discussion item only, because it's been to the committee and staff has information to report to you. And you also see it for due diligence under green space, because the green space committee, to consider any application, has to have due diligence approved. Once both of those committees complete their work, we will bring all of that back to Natural Resources with a recommendation for that particular project. So that's why you see it on there twice. So at this time, I would like to introduce Mark Davis. He's going to come up. A few questions were asked about
Before you
green
do that,
space funding.
Before you do that,
Yes, sir.
you were going to share some information about the green space referendum.
That's what he's going to bring.
He's gonna do that.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
Yep. So this is the dollar amount collected, where we stand, what we've spent, and then I can, well, actually, Mark can tell you about what our path forward is, because we have achieved our $100 million already.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
Good evening. Well, Chuck's looks nice in his PowerPoint. I like this one more. So, yeah, we put this together pretty quickly today, just to provide some information to the committee. We see some new faces here, so hopefully this is kind of just a very quick number breakdown. But as you can see, this is as of January 12th. And as you can see, total collected, we have hit our $100 million mark. So that is a substantial milestone in the program. And this is something that staff has been forecasting that we would hit it around this time. So it hit exactly when we thought, based off of the way we were seeing the deposits coming in.
Can I ask a quick question on that?
Sure.
Now that we're there, I'm getting a lot of calls from vendors in the community wanting to know when they have to stop collecting the money. Can you tell me the process for notification to them?
Yeah, so for what we understand and what I know Pinky's got some information on as well, is that, and we have been in touch with that DOR, Department of Revenue, who is the responsible body for collecting the funds as well as making those deposits, is aware of it, and they would be the ones contacting the merchants, and just for the purposes of the process. However, us speaking about it at this moment and knowing that we've hit that mark is kind of a notice in itself, but DOR is a responsible party.
So they can't stop collecting until they get the official notice. They can't change their machinery to stop collecting the 1% till they're officially notified they no longer have to do it.
I mean, that, if not to play lawyer, but that I would say that would be the safer play. Yeah, the answer, that would be this, yeah.
But the end date was the 31st of December. So wouldn't that be an automatic stop?
No, it would, the 2 years would have been another few months. We collected it.
May.
So, Logan, we collected it within about 20 months instead of the 24.
I'm pretty sure that the document said it ends December 31st of 2024.
It was for 2 years or $100 million.
It runs
And
until
we started
it
collecting in May
Yeah.
2 years ago, so it would roll forward for another few months.
It's a moot point, quite frankly. We're at the 100 million. I just want to know about the vendor's notification.
Sure.
And they really can't they can't change their machines till DOR tells them to do so. That's what
Correct.
I'm going to start telling them, so.
That is
If
correct.
they disagree, I'll tell them to call you.
Tell them to call
Explain
DOR.
it in your orderly
Yes.
fashion.
One more question on that, just following up my colleague's comment there. In 2018, I think a couple of weeks ago, we learned that there are vendors still collecting for the 2018 referendum. Oh, no. DOR
That's not correct.
contacted them, correct?
Yeah, let's make sure, this might be, make a statement
Let's
for
do
the
that.
public, but don't ask the question, make the statement,
never
because
changed their
he's not going to
POS system.
respond, because he's not sure to answer you, so make your statement.
I will.
Okay. thank
My
you.
point is that you're telling us the same information that should have been taking place after the 2018, and they're still vendors. So the statement is this: can we, as our announcements go out with a Beaufort County bulletin saying all vendors cease and desist on, I mean, how does DOR do it if they didn't do it for 2018?
I think that's contrary to the question.
It's really not.
What I'm saying.
So,
DOR
here, let me address it. So we can't speak to the 2018. I don't have any information available on that. If it is, it's a DOR issue. I know that Pinky works with DOR all the time, so if there's more information to be had, we can get that for you. But when we reached out, DOR replied, and there is a state law that says how these things are unwound. There's a statute. So they have been notified, they send out the notifications, and whatever's included in that state law that is enacted through DOR, it's their responsibility to do that, and we're willing to help in any way that we can.
Super.
So, yeah. I hope
I think, and I'm just going to follow Mr. Rett's comments. I think it's incumbent upon us to notify through our means that it is collected, and so businesses can actually start notifying DNR, what is appropriate for them to stop.
So we'll reach out and ask DOR if that's something that we can do unilaterally with them, and if they say yes, we'll report back and let you know
Sure.
What we're allowed to do and what we're not, according to them, because they sort of rule the day on that.
Right.
So, okay.
Okay.
All right.
But
Any
to answer your
questions?
question, Tom, yes, businesses are still, because you have to manually, inside your own personal POS system, change it.
Thank you. Good. Appreciate that.
So I hope this information is useful and usable to you. Any other questions before we move on?
No.
All right. If not, that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck.
I'm sorry. We're down to item number 8, and Mr. McShay is going to come and speak on that. But before he does so, I would like to put a motion on the table, and then we go from there. So if I can get a motion that's written here, we can vote it up way or down way or whatever and stuff, but then we can discuss it from there. So.
Mr. Chair, are you talking about number 9 to split off the 6
No,
individuals?
I'm talking about number 8 right now, because that's next on the item. That's the marina fee,
Yeah.
the Broad Creek Marina. There's a recommendation for no further consideration of the Broad Street
Oh, yeah.
Marina fee simple application, and to not recommend funding. So if I can get a motion for that,
I'll
then, okay, Mrs. Brown has motion,
I'll second.
and seconded by Ms. Tabernick. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Miche, go ahead.
Well, good evening, Mr. Chairman, council members. For the record, I'm Mike McShane. I'm a resident of Charleston County, but I'm here in my capacity as your volunteer chairman on the Green Space Committee. I think what will be on the screen, if I'm not mistaken, sir, will be a map. This is of the first project that the chairman just referred on the motion on the Broad Creek Marina fee simple application. This is an application that was made by the town of Hilton Head, and your Green Space Committee's recommendation is not to move. You gave us due diligence, funding approval prior, and we're recommending not to move forward with Green Space funds for the town's acquisition of this tract.
Any question of Mr. McShay in the committee?
Could we just hear what your thinking is to?
Say it again.
Could we hear your thinking as to why you're walking away from that?
Well, I would take points so that we're not walking away. We're recommending that green space not be the funding use. That does not mean that there's not merit for the town of Hilton Head to look at acquiring this property, but they're, very candidly, they're legal issues in terms of there's easement access to the marina, that's a private marina that exists. It's next to property that the town owns currently that they have plans to build and construct a recreational facility on. And so it was just a matter of no disrespect to the town's interest. It's just not what we thought the green space recommended to use the green space funds.
Thank you, that's fine.
Any other discussion on this matter? Those in favor of the motion that's on the table right now to give no further consideration of the Broad Creek Marina fee simple application and not to recommend funding. Those in favor of that motion, please. Yes.
So moved, sir.
No, it's Paula done it and Tab.
Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, yeah. Those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising their hand. Okay, and Joe, thank you. It is unanimous. The next item, number 9, there are 6 items on this recommendation, and we want to take them one at a time. The recommendation that's on here, which you do not have to vote one way, for it, we can vote against it, et cetera, but the recommendation is to approval to fund due diligence and negotiate terms and acquisition for the following proposed green space program application. And which one you want to take first?
Mr. Chairman, with your pleasure, we'll take Buckfield track, because I believe that's how it's set up in the...
So if I can get a motion for that, which is the Buckfield track.
What, do we need a motion to separate them? We need a motion to separate them.
It's on the agenda that way, do we?
You can proceed. I just wanted a motion in a second. You can do them individually, or you can do a motion to open discussion and then discuss each one individually, which would be much easier than making 6 motions.
That way.
Makes sense.
Okay.
So I need to get a motion to discuss this individually?
No.
To discuss the entire 6, and then just take them one at a time.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second, I'll second that.
Okay. Now, I do need a motion. Oh, let me just pass that. Take all 6 one at a time. That's the motion?
You can now call them as you see fit.
Yes.
But I have to...
No motion is necessary. You're good.
Okay, so I don't have to carry the motion out at this time. There's a motion on the table to take all 6.
There's a motion and a second, so now all 6 are open for discussion, and you can discuss each one individually if you see fit.
Okay, I'm going to have to lean on you, okay.
You're good to go.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, go ahead with Buckfield.
Good. You have a summary in your packet, I believe, and there's a map that'll be displayed. This is a unique project in that it is in the northern part of the county in collaboration with, frankly, economic development. This is a great indicator of where conservation and economic development actually can go work very collaboratively and hand in hand. And this is to acquire tracts of land. Let me just pull, and bear with me just a moment, sir, the way the order of which this is in my notes here. There. Acquire tracts of land that actually would have opportunity both on an economic development, but also recreational use. On that, we're asking for the due diligence, as has been indicated before. Your Green Space Committee can take each one of these, and we just need that approval to be able to do some of the due diligence as described. That can be legal descriptions, surveys, appraisals, other terms to work with the seller or the applicant. And the comeback does not necessarily guarantee by any means that we're going to come back with a recommendation to move forward on any one of these. So we're asking for that permission on this particular track.
And the total acreage is about 1,300 acres?
Yes, sir, and this would be working collaboratively with the State Forestry Commission on this property right there. This is right at the headwaters in the northern part of the Ace Basin focus area and working in concert with economic development team, and I believe is represented here on several hundred acres. 500 acres for economic development opportunities, which I submit hope include some industry that's related to forestry products in that area.
The total acreage in Beaufort is 1,700, so is that the 13 plus 5, or?
It's in that, yes, sir.
Something in that ball, okay.
Yeah.
Any question on Buckfield?
Do we see this as something that may be potential that we need to preserve because it is going to be targeted for development, or is that something we're going to figure out in the due diligence?
There'll be a lot of things that we figure out in due diligence, because that includes how much money we may be coming back for in that, because there are other sources that we can also, or look at, conservation in general is looking toward fulfilling those grants for maybe to assist the county on that. There is development potential there. That economic development opportunity, that 500 or so plus or minus acres, really would be more of a commercial interest. You've got rail, you've got sewer, you've got interstate. It makes sense to put that there. And you've got sensitivity of around there. You've got a number of recreational opportunities, both publicly, federally held, as well as privately held conservation properties in there. And it would make a good mix of that neighborhood to have the Forestry Commission, a state partner, to be involved in that area as well.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask the chairman to just let us know when we're talking about these, whether there's a seller or an applicant with relate to the presentation of the property?
Be happy to do so, sir. So this is a fee simple application, and I need to just confirm, is it with Forestry Commission or, yeah. So there's oftentimes I'll say it's the Forestry Commission is being represented by one of the local land trusts in that process, which is not an unusual transaction to have a conservation group represent a state agency in that regard.
So it's an applicant for us to purchase, not from the seller?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any further question? Let's go ahead and just take action on this item, which is Buckfield. All those in favor of moving forward with the due diligence on Buckfield, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, and Joe, I can't see you, but I'm assuming that you are. Mr. Passman?
Yeah, I raised my hand.
Yeah, I can't see you, but that's all right. You're good. Thank you.
Can you see me now?
No, but that's all right. I take your word.
That we do.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Then which one do you want to take next?
Buckwater Flood, is that okay?
Number 2 here is the North Widgeon Tract. This is in Okatee. This is an unincorporated Beaufort County. This is in the western district of the county, and this is, again, to pursue due diligence. You heard the assistant administrator talk about that you're going to see this twice. This is to give Green Space the opportunity to do its work and seek other funding as well on this particular tract, along with our partners at Rural and Critical Lands to do that.
And this is a track that has been on the radar for some years. So we're glad to see this coming forward. So,
Mr. Chairman, I would point out, I think one of the interesting dynamics of this project is that one of the first projects Rural and Critical Lands took on was a widgeon in this area. This very well could be the end chapter of that program in a nice way to segue into green space with some of the same efforts there.
well said. Well said. Any question on this? Okay, those in favor of moving this forward for due diligence, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay.
And to answer Mr. McGowan, that is a land trust is the applicant on that.
Okay. That's passed. And the next one, Mr. Shane.
Would be another fee simple application for the Beach City Road Track. This is by the town of Hilton Head. You see there's a small track but one that has significant value in that area for acquisition for conservation purposes. And
Did we
we're
just
asking
purchase
again
the
for
other
just,
one?
sir?
We just purchased the one to the left of that, correct?
Yes.
The left, yep.
Okay, any question?
Who's the applicant?
That's the town of Hilton Head.
And did they put up, are they putting in the same share as us, or is this the same thing as Mitchellville that was right next door?
The town of Hilton Head has a particular, they've been consistent, sir, in their applications. You'll see something that I think will help address that here in a few moments.
That means no.
Please, please.
He's so much more elegant about it, though, than me.
Very much. Any other comments or question? Those in favor of the Beach River Road project for due diligence, please indicate by raising your hand. Gerald, okay.
I'm with you. I lost
Did you
my
vote?
screen.
I am a no.
Those in opposition? Okay, there's one in opposition. Okay, next one, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, this one is also in the Bluffton area. This is again in the Western District. This is to pursue the due diligence on the Buckwalter track. I know there have been many comments on this particular track. You can see the map there. This is an application for fee simple by the town of Bluffton. The seller is, I have to admit to you that I'm agnostic to who the seller is, but the application is for the town of Bluffton seeking this funding here, and we are seeking the ability to do a number of due diligence products and programs, including there's some particular questions on legal description. There's clearly an appraisal aspect that has to be taken into consideration in that process, which is in your ordinance, as well as perhaps some negotiations that will take place once that information comes in.
Okay. This by no means say that you will be recommending the purchase of anything.
Correct. This does not obligate council to do any funding of the application.
I want to make sure that
it's simply for us to be able to do this work. And I stress that because I do think that sometimes those in the public think the fact that Green Space receives an application is automatically going to create a transaction. That is not the case here. This simply gives us the ability to do that type of diligence that anyone would want us to do before we come back to you with a recommendation.
Any other questions?
I have some
Yes, go ahead.
questions, Mr. Chairman. On here, the red is the school district future purchase, right? Then below that, Bluffton owned land. I thought Bluffton owned all the land and want to change it to green space. Am I incorrect about that?
You're referring to what's in yellow that you thought the town of Bluffton owned?
Well, yeah, the town of Bluffton owns all of it, all the red, the green, and the yellow.
No, ma'am.
No?
No, ma'am. The yellow is owned by the Foothills Conservancy, which is an entity that took ownership of this property in the relatively recent.
Okay. Right. So the town of Bluffton,
Is seeking.
this whole track is in the town of Bluffton,
It is.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the yellow part, the town of Bluffton wants us to put in green space.
They want funding from Green Space for
Funding,
them
right,
to
yeah,
acquire that
right.
property.
But I didn't realize there's that little piece of green area there. Bluffton owns that land?
That's what it says in the map.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Okay, any further question?
All right.
Go ahead.
Is there a reason it's not the entire tract on the bottom, like it's cut out?
Are you referring, Mr.
Yes.
Cunningham, to the fact that they're the two? That's an outholding that I'd have to defer.
That's owned by somebody else.
It's a separate ownership is what I understand.
It is separate ownership?
Yeah.
Do we know who owns that?
I do not know that individual, sir. But I'm sure staff, and it's easy, obviously, for the record to find out who is the owner of that.
I thought someone from the town of Bluffton's here. If we can have him come up and speak? Would that be allowed, Mr. Chairman?
Well, the town is the applicant.
Right.
So all we're seeking here tonight is the simple fact to allow your green space to do some of
Okay.
that due diligence. That due diligence does not put a time frame, does not say that we have to come back with a recommendation in a certain time period, although we always try to be expeditious in doing so on that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may question, the green and the red, was that purchase already done?
My understanding is the green is currently owned, and that is something to ask the town. So the town's affirming that that is owned by the town. And the red, sir, I can't speak to about what the school district has done in that area. Is that owned by the school district? Okay.
Any further questions? Mr. McAllen, you look like you have a question in you.
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Okay. Any further question? The motion is to proceed with due diligence on this piece of property.
I'll motion that.
It's,
That's what I motion.
oh, yeah, I don't even have a motion on it. Yes, you did motion. Okay. Do I get a second?
I'll say.
Larry, Mr. McAllen is seconded. Any discussion among council? Okay, those in favor of that, please indicate by raising their hand. Okay, and those in opposition? Okay, and Joe, did I get where you voted?
He was yes.
Yes? Okay, it passes.
This is for the due diligence,
7-2.
Mr. Chair.
Right, this, yeah,
Due
yes,
diligence
that's
only.
all. That's all. Okay, Michelle, you still on?
Yes, sir. I'm still here, Mr. Chairman. The next one is also an application by the town of Hilton Head, and this is on a corridor protection. As you might recall, in the ordinance and the
Which one is that now?
It's known as the Old Wild Horse Road Track.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
Okay, go ahead.
And the town is seeking funding from Green Space for the acquisition of that corridor protection on that particular track. And we're just asking for some due diligence again, and we've, as you can see, we've limited what we've asked for, so there's a value on each one of these we've asked to spend up to. If we had to come back, if we had to spend more, we would obviously have to come back for approval to go beyond that amount, in this case, $25,000.
Okay, is there a motion to move forward?
I'll make a motion to move
Okay,
forward.
Ms. Howard, anyone second it?
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. McAllen seconded. Any discussion from council members?
Just my same two questions before. I see it's Town of Hilton Head. Is it the same offer as the first one?
They've been very consistent, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we're ready to vote. Those in favor, please indicate by raising their hand. Those in opposition? Okay, we got one in opposition. Okay, Mr. McShane, you still on?
Yes, sir. The last for due diligence tonight is a fee simple application. This is not, it's in the city of Beaufort, but I want to be clear, this is not an application by the city of Beaufort for this track. This is a private landowner who's been represented by an agent seeking green space acquisition, fee simple acquisition, and the Green Space Committee thought enough that there's some due diligence we would like to achieve on doing that, and we've asked for up to $10,000 on this particular project. This is located in the Eastern District in Ladies Island.
Yeah, it's actually in my district.
It's surrounded by commercial or residential?
It's really around residential. Well, no.
No, I think this is some commercial in there as well.
Yeah.
It's nearby.
Make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Those in favor of it, please indicate by raising the hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you, sir. That took care of all of item number 9, and now we're down to number 10. And there's a resolution authorizing the county administrator to execute the documents necessary and to provide funds to the town of Hilton Head for their procurement of fee simple real estate located on Hilton Head Island, known as the Jonesville Road Track, and not to exceed the appraised price And yeah, that's it. I entertain a motion to put this on the table.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second? Second by Mr. McEllen. Go ahead, sir.
So, Mr. Chairman, now that you have that motion, your green space, you gave us prior, obviously, the ability to do due diligence, and we're coming back tonight with a recommendation for council to approve a grant up to what is the appraised value that was taken on, contracted by your green space and county staff for $2.187 million for this tract. That means that if you approve this and therefore council then approves this, then the county would offer the town $2.187 million for the use for the application or the acquisition of this particular tract. Any funding that they need or any negotiations of cost over that they'll have to figure out a way how they're going to handle that. That did not come out of green space.
Okay, and this is a 6-acre tract?
Yes, sir. And I think the map shows where you can see, and this clearly identifies one of the issues that we've had great discussion over in terms of values on Hilton Head and values through other parts of the county as well.
Okay. Any discussion from council?
Well, I'd like to make a motion to amend this. And I'm I'll make the motion first and discuss it. The motion would be to amend this to include any additional conservation funds received via grants or other sources will be returned to our green space program funds. And
I will second that.
Okay.
Good, very good.
And obviously, the reason I'm making that is should they receive future funds, and we did put this on another one, the funds come back to green space, and we've agreed we're going to put this on most of the ones going forward of this kind.
Okay. It's been properly seconded. Any discussion? Those in favor of the motion as amended at this time, the amendment, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Now, the motion that's on the table now is to approve for the administrator to move forward with the funds, to provide the funds, and for the town to buy their property, this property, the Jonesville tract, not to exceed the appraised price at this time, and with the stipulation that any funds coming from other source later on will go back to green space. That's generally the motion. You got it over there, right? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, one quick question.
Yeah.
I've had this discussion before with Mr. McShane, and I just want to clarify. If this goes through this way, who will be the owner of this property?
The town.
The town would.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Those in favor of this motion, please indicate by raising your hand.
I have a question too.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Go
My
ahead.
apologies.
I'm a journalist. This will be on red 5.
Go ahead, Mr. Kennedy.
Sorry. If the property is owned by Hilton Head, and Tab just made that amendment that we proved, would we as a county be able to apply for those said grants as well?
It's a very fair question, Mr. Cunningham.
There's really no motivation for them to apply for them if...
Correct. I do think there are opportunities where the answer could be yes. There may be some grants that would disqualify the county since the fee ownership is there, but I think there's some ways that the grant restrictions that would be put in place may bring value back to the county.
Is there a way for us to put something in the amendment that says maybe our staff could team up for the ones that we're not eligible to apply for because we're not the landowners, that we would be able to team up with them so we could push it to be applied for any of those grants?
Makes sense.
I mean, he's right, there is no incentive on the part of the town. Good point.
Just
I have no issue
You're smarter about this than me, so I'm just spitballing here.
I'm just, and forgive me for just sort of processing through some experience. I have no issue that we could actually direct staff to, the administrator could direct staff to work with our legal counsel at Green Space and how you could put this into a grant agreement.
I think what you want to do is to make a condition that the applicant will cooperate with the county in applying for other grants, and that any The receipt of those grants will come back to the green space program.
That sounds beautiful. I'll make that motion to the amendment.
I'll second that.
Okay,
I agree.
No objection from the green space.
Is that something, well, we're first and second in some discussion, is that something that we could put into our language for future discussions?
I think,
That gives us the ability
I would
to
just ask if Brian and Chuck, if you and Mark, if y'all will make sure you bring that to our Green Space Committee meeting, and we'll add that, we'll take that as consideration of adding to a policy,
Yeah.
basically, so that there's consistency in how we do that.
That'd be great. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
yeah, there's a, let me make sure I understand the motion itself. What's the amendment at this time, Mr. Cunningham?
See, it allows our staff to work with the owner of the property to apply for grants. And that they will cooperate with us if we do this purchase for them to be the property owners. So basically what we're saying,
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Tab's original amendment would allow.
No, I got that part. You're saying the property owner now,
Proposed property owner.
the proposed property owner now would have to cooperate with us if
To
we
apply
wanted.
for said grants.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it's, and the council is saying it's okay legally, so I'm just gonna leave it like that.
We're making a condition of the grant that they will cooperate with the county in any applications for future grants from other entities to reimburse the green space program for the funds granted.
Okay?
There it is right there.
Okay.
My argument for that is, Mr. Chairman, only because with her amendment that we get the funds back, there's no motive for the town of Hilton Head to apply for any grants.
No, I understand. I'm
You
just
know,
saying.
so at
I'm
least
just
we
trying
have
to-
access to it if we're not the property owner.
I'm just trying to follow the legitimate part of it, and the attorney is saying that he's okay with the amendment to the amendment at this time, and I'm going to leave it like that, because I'm not no lawyer.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm the liaison to Hilton Head. We're going to make sure
But
that they
it's
understand that.
it's not
Yeah.
necessarily Hilton Head. I'm not picking on
It should
Hilton
be
Head. It could be anybody.
Yeah.
With
Right.
this one, it's,
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, just so I understand, Mr. McShane, your Green Space Committee will make that a provision going forward. The funds come back to us, but also that there will be a cooperation to seek funds.
So you're talking in general terms, in
I'm
terms of
talking
future
any
applications.
property.
So what I can commit to tonight, Madam Vice Chairman, is that I'll bring that to the Green Space Committee meeting on the 24th, and that we take an action on that.
Okay.
My instincts are no one's going to object to that, because it really addresses the issue that we've all had discussions over, about the fact that entities that ask for 100% of funding from Green Space, when really the ideal situation is that they're using it as a participating grant, not the 100%. I will say that in this case, I think you should take some comfort in that we're not paying more than the appraised value we had done. If they negotiated on a higher metric, then they've got to come up with that. I don't think it's fair to come back to Green Space. So we want to stay consistent. Even in the Mitchellville tract, we've been very consistent in how we've done this. I understand they have expectations that maybe are different, but this is how we've been operating under your ordinance. And I think that's the best recommendation I can make to council who I serve.
Okay, there's an amendment on the floor at this time, and I'm not going to repeat it. Anybody who don't understand it, please let me know at this time. Other than that, I'm calling for the question. Those in favor of the amendment that's on the floor, please indicate by raising their hand.
Chairman?
Yes.
Before you do that, you actually have two amendments, so you have to take them in order. Mr. Cunningham's amendment, and then if that's successful, then you go to Ms. Tabernak's amendment, and if that's successful, then you go to the original.
Right. Right now, what I have, I think, is the approval of the amendment of Mrs. Tabernak motion. That's already been passed. And this is now the amendment to this motion. So if we take care of this, it'll be the motion as amended.
Correct.
It's total, and we move forward. So those who in favor of the amendment that Mr. Cunningham has just put forward, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. And so we have a motion that's amended and amended. And that's the motion that's on the floor. Double amendments. That's what the motion we're going to vote on. Those in favor of that motion as amended and amended, please indicate by raising their hand.
Thank you.
And Mr. Parliamentarian, have we taken care of that motion?
Done.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, and number 11, Mr. That's still you.
I'm still here, sir.
Yes, sir. That's still you. You on.
Keep going.
You want me to go ahead?
I think I need to go ahead and put a motion on the
Yes,
floor.
sir.
You're right.
I'm just waiting on you to put your motion on there.
Ms. Tabernac has made the motion, which is to authorize the county administrator to execute the documents necessary and to provide funds to contribute to their procurement of fee simple real estate located on Hilton Head Island, known as the William Hilton Parkway Tract, and not to exceed the appraised value of the property, and that any funding received from future right-of-way acquisition go back to the Green Space Fund. And that's her motion. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Ms. Howard, second. Go ahead, sir.
So
Okay.
this is, as you can see here, this is, any way you can come in a little tighter on the actual tracks? You can see it's 3 tracks. The town owns that in gray, and this is an application for the 3 yellow tracks. The committee took great discussion on the fact that it is along 278, and at some point, that may very likely have an impact by road work. And so the committee's thought was to recommend approval using green space on those tracks, but with the caveat that any impact financially to those properties via road work, that money come back to green space. Because it is a request by the town, again, for 100% of their request. But this does not exceed the appraised value. That's always the caveat.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So I'm looking at this map, Mr. McShane. So the gray the town owns,
Yes, sir.
and
Ma'am,
they would like us to buy the other slices.
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a reason the town doesn't own those slices? It looks kind of strange to me that they have broken it up.
Well, I can't speak for why they don't currently own them. I can only speak that they see and are soliciting to purchase those now.
What was the value?
The appraised value that we're recommending not to exceed $1.464 million, so $1,464,200 on that.
So how does that put us in a legality-wise if we did put something in green space and construction happens on it at some point?
Well, only if and I'm going to use the term DOT. So if DOT comes in and impacts that, they'll have to do some mitigation to that. That mitigation value will be appraised, and we're asking that impact value ought to come back to green space.
Makes sense.
That's part of the motion.
Sure.
Any further discussion on this matter?
Mr. Administrator, you're comfortable
Yes.
with that?
On the prior issue, you wanted the applicant to cooperate with the county for any additional funds to come back as well. You may want that condition as well.
Well, that's in here.
No, that's the,
Received from future right-of-way acquisition.
Sure.
You're talking
You
about
want
for
it broader?
grants, Brian?
that's the state. I'm talking about any other grant.
Any other grants?
Oh,
So the previous motion we made on it,
put it back.
Sure.
Okay, somebody
I'll make that motion and put it on this one as well. I mean, I
Okay.
think we're going to have to do it for this entire meeting until we have it.
No, this is the
written into
last
actual-
issue right here, I hope.
I'll second that for
Okay,
you.
it's been probably motion and seconded.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion on the amendment? Those in favor of the amendment at this time, please indicate by raising the hand. Okay, it is unanimous. Now we'll take the motion as amended at this time to move forward with the purchasing as Tabin has made that motion. Any further discussion on the amended motion?
Yeah, I guess I just kind
Go
of have the
ahead.
same question as Tab. Why aren't they purchasing it themselves? for this small parcel, and they already own the surrounding ones. Like, I understand using green space as a tool, and it opens it up for the opportunity to do that, but this is like the fourth one.
An observation.
It's green space, and the conservation will go with the property, so it's...
There'll be grant restrictions on that property, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Simply an observation. The town of Hilton Head has been very aggressive in submitting applications from the beginning of the program. You first started taking applications about this, about this time last year. Actually, that was May of 23 is when you started collecting. May of 23, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So it would have been in roughly shortly after there, they started, when you had passed the ordinance, and I think it was September of 23, they started putting in applications. So they've been very aggressive about that.
Which is good for them. You're doing your work.
Sure. Yeah.
And Green Space respectfully understands our position is to bring a recommendation back to the county council and what we think is the best pathway for council to take on using green space.
Okay, yes, sir, Mr.
I want to ask a question that's not part of this. It's something of Mr. McShane to get an education for me. Is this an appropriate time to do that, or do we?
Let's get rid of this motion.
Yeah, let's do that.
And then you come back. I'll come back to you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion as amended? Those in favor, please indicate by raising their hand. Can I get a okay? It's unanimous.
No,
now, go ahead.
No, it is not.
No, it's not.
I'm a no.
I'm a no.
Oh, okay. There's two in opposition. Thank you. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to get back to Tom.
That's okay. I appreciate that.
Go ahead.
Chairman.
Go ahead. You have the floor.
My question is this. We had a couple of citizens speak before about if green space acquires property and somebody wants to put a road in, what are the rules and regulations once a property becomes in green space?
This is a general response, not specific to any one particular
Absolutely.
project. Any governmental entity is still entitled to use the tool of condemnation, despite the fact there's conservation placed on the property, be it deed restrictions, easement, or grant restrictions. They still have the ability to use condemnation. Now, that's a very public process that's going to require probably some court oversight on that, but that does not prohibit them from moving forward on that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Just a comment, nor would it, regardless of who the owner is.
Correct.
Right.
It is absolutely regardless who the owner is, be it a municipality, any governmental entity, or any private citizen.
Yes, sir. Thank you. No, I just wanted to help ease some of their minds. That's good. Thank you.
Mr. Shea, I think that's exhausted your time. We want to thank you.
I hope it's not exhausted my welcome, sir. I will just point out, because you had Mark show some of the figures up there. Is there a chance you could go back to, Sarah, to the green space figures, just to kind of give some context of the metrics here? You've spent, this is the spreadsheet with the map. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So if you look at the fact that you have spent about $10.8 million on projects that have been approved by council, you now have two more that you will make recommendations to council. If that's successful, then you're looking around just a little over $14 million of the program that you've committed to. There are a number of projects that still come forward, but that means we're somewhere in the 15 to 16 or so % of what is spent. And I just highlight the fact that it was May of 23 to May of 25 would have been the 2-year, Mr. Cunningham. You know, my 3 daughters and my wife were spending money down here last month at a wedding. And so I think that's why your sales tax revenue.
I wasn't going to say anything until later on, but we might want to check our website then.
So,
thank you, sir.
Congratulations to this council for having the wisdom to implement this program.
Right.
Okay, appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next time you have green space, we got to make sure we add a little bit more time. Yeah. Okay. Come on up. There's item number 12, which deals with the hospital conveyance. We need a motion to amend the ordinance 2024-36 conveying property to Buford Memorial Hospital for the development of affordable housing and medical office space in Bluffton, South Carolina, located at 333 and 335 Buckwalter Parkway. Mr. Epperson, you on?
Need a motion?
Need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Oh, yes, I need a motion, yes.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been properly motion and second by Ms. Howard and Ms. Tabernac. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm glad we made it through that to get to this. I've got to try to get Russell out of here for his board meeting, but this is important. The project continues to proceed. I'm going to have Russell come up and give more of the details. But in our original conveying ordinance last year, some of the language was vague and infinite. And in the process of investors and development, there have been some specifics that have come up that must be amended by ordinance. We couldn't just change any of the terms without going through this process. So Russell can explain some of those, but we made sure that in this amendment, the county still has the restriction for the operation of the uses for a period of time, and if such uses would cease, the county would receive the appraised value of the land back at the time of the default. Initially, the ordinance said that we would also get the improvements back. That hinders somebody to develop it when they're going to put far more money in vertical construction, and for us to recoup that, we don't foresee that happening, but I'll let him explain the details of why that's necessary in the ordinance amendment.
Mr. Baxley. Yes, sir.
Council, thank you. I'll keep this short and sweet to the point, because I do have a board meeting to get back to at 5:30. But ultimately, just some cleanup of the ordinance, and I think it was a well-drafted ordinance, but we're trying to align this with, for example, Woda Cooper and the town of Bluffton in terms of how long we'll keep the property affordable. I think 30 years is what we agreed to with the town of Bluffton as they convey the RDUs to this project, which would be 60 to equal 120 as part of this project. And then ultimately, to Hank's point as well, the improvements on the property, we just want some flexibility of that. Obviously, both Woda Cooper and Buford Memorial are going to invest a lot of money and time into either the medical or the affordable housing part. And so just we want the ability that, say, 30 years when the lease is up, that we can either purchase those, that land that the improvements sit on at fair market value, or vice versa. We can unwind it a different way, providing flexibility both for the county and Woda Cooper, who is the developer on the project, as well as Buford Memorial, who will be a big part of the project as well. So really just a bit of a cleanup for that 30-year term, which is what we'll be talking with the town of Bluffton tomorrow. So as an update to the project, we do go to the town tomorrow to discuss with them the agreement for the conveyance of the RDUs to this project, and also the time in which we will be keeping that project affordable, which will be for a minimum of 30 years, which is what Woda Cooper has agreed to. And ultimately, when they partner with Buford Memorials and the counties and the towns of the world, 30 years is kind of their standard, is what they keep these projects affordable for. Not that they typically sell these, they don't. That's one of the reasons we partnered with them, but ultimately that's kind of the industry standard at 30 years for them. And as you guys know, we already have successfully acquired the housing tax credit from the state, so we are moving forward. We're also going to be in front of the town of Bluffton in terms of the DRC, submitting the master planning as well, going through wetlands, stormwater permitting, et cetera. We're working through the processes now with the town of Bluffton. I would expect in about 6 to 8 months' time we could break ground on this project. So I'll pause there and ask for any questions.
Any question?
How many housing units are we talking?
120.
All of them at workforce housing?
Yes.
Yes.
Workforce and affordable, or just
both? I mean, I kind of use that interchangeably. So I just basically use it workforce, and it'll be 80, 60, and 40% of the AMI.
What were the numbers? 80,
60, and 40% of the AMI in various combinations. 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom apartments.
Any other question?
No.
Want to move this along so you get back to your board meeting?
Sure, love to.
Those in favor of the motion as on the agenda, please indicate by. The motion by Ms. Howard and
I second it.
Second by, yeah. Those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising their hand. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, And Mr. Passerman, I'm assuming that you did vote yes. We're down to item number 13, and Mrs. Kay Schaefer is going to come and give an update, annual report from the Rural and Critical Land annual report. And Ms. Schaefer, if you or someone would they just introduce and recognize the board members that are here? I appreciate it. Thank you, ma'am.
Great. Thank you all. I'm Kate Schaefer with the Open Land Trust, and as Councilmember Glover has indicated, we have two rural and critical board members who are here at the meeting with us tonight. Mr. Walter Mack, who has served as our chair in recent years, and Mr. Mac Bennett, who served as vice chair currently. So thank you both for being here, for being part of Beaufort County's conservation story as members of the Rural and Critical Board. This is an important opportunity not only to thank the board members that are sitting here, but all board members of the Rural and Critical Program that have served since its inception. As you all are well aware, the Rural and Critical Program has benefited from 5 successful bond referendums and has levied a property tax to protect land countywide. And the Green Space Program has picked up the baton and the momentum of land protection in a similar but slightly different manner. But that doesn't mean the work of the Rural and Critical Board isn't to be incredibly commended for setting that strong foundation. So thank you to our board members, both past and present. All of the information you'll hear tonight is because of their diligence and their commitment to Beaufort County. So we owe them a debt of gratitude.
Great, Madam Chairman, I want to just applaud them because over the years they have done a tremendous job, and I think they deserve that. That's the least we can do.
The least we can do.
Go ahead.
That's right. Great. Well, it's my privilege to be here with you all tonight. The Open Land Trust has had the pleasure of serving as the Rural and Critical Program contractor for 12 of its many years. And part of our role is to present an annual update of sorts. The one before you tonight is actually a snapshot of the past 2 years, which is convenient because the projects fall into 2 nice categories, and I have some draft program metrics to share with you as well. So first and foremost, I'll start with the success of the past 2 years, and then we'll talk about the colorful graphic. Over the past 2 years, we've had 6 real estate closings, 3 of which have really added to future public access opportunities via investment in fee simple land holdings and the Passive Parks program, and 3 that have been smaller in size but have added to linkages between existing land holdings. So want to highlight over the past 2 years, 554 acres protected, with $8.7 million and $1.2 in partner investment, which helps get us to our total of land protection to date at over 2,900 acres. That includes the 29,000. Thank you. It's important clarification. That includes the $153 million spent from the Rural and Critical Bond and the over $46 million invested directly by partners, including partners like the Department of Defense or our municipalities, in previous years, the Department of Agriculture, and others. The closings from the past couple years are going to be highlighted in this report that you'll receive and that will be available electronically on the Rural and Critical Program website. We had the Pocataligo Preserve, 527 acres of fee simple land in District 1 that was protected with direct cash support from the Conservation Bank and partnership from the Open Space Institute. The Cherry Hill Oak, about 12 acres purchased in the town of Port Royal with support from the town and from the landowners, including a direct investment to protect the heritage tree canopy. And then recently in December, the closing of 12 additional acres next to SCDNR's Altamaha Town Heritage Preserve, which is a 100-acre site in the Okatee area that includes historical and cultural artifacts linking back to the Yamasee Native tribes. So those are just incredible additions to our fee simple public land that we should be very proud to add and to provide future public access. And then investments that protect the landscape links are properties like the Blocker Field extension, which you approved in 23 and closed in 24, that basically, as it says, extends Blocker Field, which is a vista as we drive on to rural St. Helena Island. Barrel Landing, which fills into a donut hole in the Barrel Landing track along the headwaters of the Okatee River, and then Boundary Street, which is helping to create a linear park of public views to the marsh along Highway 21. That doubles down on not only the county's investment in land protection and vistas, but in the resilience of that infrastructure, because protecting land adjacent to the hurricane evacuation routes in a low-lying area like Beaufort County will continue to pay forward positive results. As a board, we've talked a lot about what the future of the Rural and Critical Program looks like, and we have 2 or 3 more closings that would essentially reduce the funding to a negligible amount that could be reinvested to debt service or to close out the program. And we really feel strongly that the best parts of the Rural and Critical Program are being passed forward to green space, and there is a symbolic passing of the baton, because while the Rural and Critical Program funding from the 2018 bond referendum is dwindling with these final closings, the green space penny has collected, as you've seen, $100 million and is continuing the county's investment in land protection. So your annual report includes a little bit about how the green space penny can continue the legacy of the Rural and Critical Program. Are there questions about the recent closings or the status of the program right now? You'll hear about those final properties from Amanda in a little bit. No?
Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
So you're talking about the items on our agenda, which come out to $1,432,000.
And an item for discussion with it, which includes North Widgeon, which is another 2.2.
And so you have enough funds in Rural and Critical for that?
For that and nothing more.
Got it.
Down to the penny.
Which is better than having debt, right?
Correct.
Yes.
But
Well, that's what I'm just checking, yes.
yes.
Any? Okay, no question, Ms. Schaefer.
Okay.
I would.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, I have a couple more things,
Sure.
but you're not supposed to give out handouts before you talk about them, so you'll get them at the end. The next thing is a draft report by the numbers, and Sarah has electronic copies of this for you too. But basically, what we've attempted to do is condense some of the benefits of the program to metrics, conservative in nature, but things that Beaufort County can use in publicity and in outreach to showcase the value of land protection investment, because the money that we've spent in land protection has not just gone to protect land, it's gone to create passive parks and public access opportunities. It's gone to protect forests, to protect farms, to protect over 102 miles of shoreline, which in Beaufort County is an expensive and hard to come by commodity that's available for the public, that has public benefit. It's gone to support a tourism industry. We know tourism brings over 3 million visitors here, and that depends on clean, fishable, swimmable waters. It's boosted property value. It's invested in wetlands protection, which saves us in our most vulnerable points with storm surge and sea level rise, as well as increased hurricanes. It protects charismatic species. We have bird counts even that are crowdsourced from users of our passive parks, 188 bird species in all time at Widgeon Point. So if you go out and you see a rare bird, make sure you put it in there so we can add it to that list. And provides over $78 million in co-benefits from ecosystem services. So when we start to value things like what does it mean to have clean air, what does it mean to have clean water, we know it means millions and millions of dollars returned in benefit to Beaufort County taxpayers. So for the investment we've put into the program and the land itself, we're receiving these co-benefits in return. And because these lands are protected forever, we will keep receiving them now and into the future. So there is a little handout for you as well about those co-benefits, and all of this will be available online, and I look forward to working with county staff to publicize and share this information. So.
Did you mention the military?
The military is included in the partner funds invested so far. So $46 million has been the total of direct cash payments, which does include the military. As you know, we've had a partnership with the Department of Defense since 2006, and they pay cash directly at closing. It matches a lot of the time the rural and critical investment. What that $46 million in partner dollars actually doesn't include is the landowner donation, which is is also powerful. So South Carolina has a history of landowners selling to conservation at a bargain sale, whether that be an easement or a fee, where they're donating value to, because these landowners love their land and they want to see it protected. And so that donated value is actually not reflected in the $46 million, but I think if we ever had an intern or someone who wanted to study that, would also reveal really impressive amounts for Beaufort County.
Okay, any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Schaefer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hi, I just wanted to dovetail on Kate's annual report. Amanda is handing out an update of the budget. Ms. Tabernick had a nice segue question there into the remaining funds and what is available. This is set up so that I understand it, so it might not be exactly the way it needs to be set up for everybody else to understand it, but I'll just give you a quick walkthrough. So I did leave fiscal year 24 closeout at the top right so that you can see what was actually spent last fiscal year, and then fiscal year 25 actual is what I pulled as of last Monday. So the numbers might be just a tiny bit off today, depending on other invoices or things that have been paid since then. Roughly, going into this meeting, we had $5.5 million in the Rural and Critical Bond Fund account. You'll see on the top where it says funding spending summary, those are the list of projects. So as Rural and Critical receives applications and moves forward through the process, we keep a running tally of projects as they come up so that we're not overspending funds, and so that we're keeping in mind the amount of money we have available, how much things are anticipated to cost, and making sure we're staying within budget. So you'll see there that Rostrum Road fee, we just closed on that in December 18th. That's the property Kate mentioned that is adjacent to the co-owned county and DNR property, Altamaha Heritage Preserve. The Station Creek PDR has a zero balance because that seller withdrew their application. So that is going to be something else. The Open Land Trust is working with the seller for a different funding source. We also have 4 projects. Beach City Road, there is a property there that has had a title issue for a number of years. We're still trying to work through that. Not sure yet what the status of that is. And then the 3 projects that you're going to hear today, Seaside Road, Davis Road, and North Widgeon. Those are the 3 that we are actively hoping to close on before end of fiscal year anticipated. And so with some anticipated due diligence and then some closing costs, we do want to keep those in mind moving forward. So again, we don't go over budget and end up not having money to account for due diligence and closing costs. You'll see that we're spending practically all of it. There is going to be a tiny little bit remaining available that could go into North Widgeon, or if there was some interest left over, there would be a decision coming to County Council at a later date on how to handle the interest that this account has been gaining. And you'll see that in fiscal year 25, we have already accumulated almost $75,000 worth of interest. So there will be some decisions and some updates coming up towards the end of the fiscal year, but for right now, we want to make sure we get through these projects and get everything closed. And these are the last of the funding available.
Okay, any question? We appreciate the information.
Thank you.
We thank you, and we'll, I guess, I'm not looking forward to the retirement of the Rural and Critical land, but I have to accept that, so we're looking forward to it.
Money runs out.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
then.
Take care.
Mrs. Schaefer, you back up on 14? And there's a need for a motion. Oh, no, this is discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's no motion.
Yeah, no motion.
Still takes a motion.
Take a motion to discuss?
Motion to discuss it.
Oh, okay, well, then I'll take a motion to discuss the ordinance authorizing the county administrator to execute the necessary documents and provide funding for the fee simple purchase of real property identified as in tax serial number, also known as North Widget fee. Yes.
Great.
Okay, Mr. Dawson motion, and Mr. McKellen seconded. Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, so if you've ever been out to Widgeon Point Preserve and you've wondered what property you're looking at when you look across the pond from the bird blind, you're looking at North Widgeon, which is about 9.3 high acres and surrounding high marsh, as shown on this map, adjacent to our Widgeon Point Preserve. So I mentioned earlier that the board has put a lot of thought into what the Rural and Critical Program has done for Beaufort County and how to spend these remaining dollars as best as possible. I think both practically and kind of symbolically, this represents one of the best possible expenditures for the remaining fund. Widgeon Point Preserve itself, to the south, is a 162-acre passive park that's owned 7/8 by the county and 1/8 by the Open Land Trust. Its purchase was funded primarily by the Rural and Critical Program, but also by a contribution from the State Conservation Bank. And the proposal for North Widgeon is not dissimilar. The landowners applied to the Rural and Critical Program back in September. The Rural and Critical Board approved due diligence and requested an appraisal be completed, which has come back and been completed. We also, the Open Land Trust applied on the landowner's behalf to the Green Space Program and is applying to the State Conservation Bank by the end of this month. The premise for discussion is that the remaining funds available from the Rural and Critical Bank account, which are now around $2.2 million, would be applied toward the purchase price of North Widgeon, and the excess, which is estimated around $500,000, would be shared between applications to Green Space, which has approved due diligence, and the Conservation Bank. And so part of the Green Space due diligence, obviously, is their board's prerogative to decide, how much money they're going to put into it, knowing that 2.2 is already coming from the county taxpayers, just in a different account. And then, again, hopeful the a successful award from the State Conservation Bank. But given their connection to the Widgeon Point property, we feel very strong and confident about our application. We think this is a stand-up project for the State Conservation Bank as well. So that's the little bit of a rundown on North Widgeon. Again, just kind of tying the bow on the rural and critical expenditures, adding to existing investment, adding tremendous public benefit with the protection of the neighboring landscape, and bringing together a funding partner. This helps continue the best parts of the Rural and Critical Program, investment for the public with funding partners, and carries that momentum forward to Green Space with their partnership on the project, symbolically and actually on the closing. We've also done title work on the property because there was a question about ownership at the due diligence vote, and the title work has come back and is satisfactory to continue to move toward closing. So,
any question?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You're on number 14. You're talking about $1.2 million that's going to cost?
So,
but you said something about
2.2. So we had another project in the rural and critical due diligence pipeline that we referred to as Station Creek. Previously, we had estimated its easement value around $960,000, but that project, the easement terms changed such that it became materially different from the project the board recommended. So the recommendation of the Rural and Critical Board is to allocate that $900 and some odd thousand to North Widgeon, which brings the Rural and Critical contribution up to $2.2 million, roughly. And again, we're using conservative numbers, but the vote would be to use the remaining monies available in the Rural and Critical account. We just estimate that.
Okay, but if you if you take pages 143 all the way to 157, all the Beaufort County tax records, you add all those partials up, it only comes out to $858,000.
So I don't have the pages. I don't have the benefit of the pages in front of me, but as you can see in the budget sheet that Stephanie just prepared, we prior to the withdrawal of the Station Creek easement, had around 1.2 that we could allocate for North Widgeon, and with the reallocation from Station Creek to North Widgeon, we have around 2.2, and the intent is to apply that to the purchase. It does not get us to the appraised value of North Widgeon, and that's why we've also applied to Green Space and to the Conservation Bank to make up that difference.
So you said the title search has been done and that's good?
Correct.
What about the appraisal?
An appraisal has been completed, and that's how we know
And the
what
appraisal
number
came
we
in
have
at
to get
what?
to. Pardon?
The appraisal came in at what?
2.7.
2.7. See, this is where I'm confused, because you're saying 2.7, but if you add up pages 143 to 157, you come out with $858,000 and $700. So, I don't know, the way I'm looking at it, maybe I'm looking wrong, but
You're looking at the county assessment?
Yeah, I think you're looking at the assessed
I
tax
am.
value.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very different number than what the appraised value is. So we can get the assessor to explain how they come up with that number, but those numbers do not relate to
can we
the
get
current
the
appraised
the
value.
appraiser to come in and show us how he came up with that number?
It's in the backup. The appraisal's in there, and it
Oh,
explains how
thank
they
you,
did it.
Chuck.
Yes, ma'am.
As always, thank you.
Are there other
Okay.
questions?
No, I want to move on this because a motion to allow the county administration to move forward doesn't mean the purchase of the property. I think we want to hear from Green Space as well.
First, yeah.
Yeah, so one of the reasons it's for discussion before you tonight and not for a vote is because, while Rural and Critical has recommended an approval of purchase, Green Space is still in the due diligence, and the application to the Conservation Bank is outstanding. But we will keep you abreast of all of those discussions, and then once they, assuming things are successful, which I certainly will make every effort to have happen, we'll bring back a completed project to you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I just want to point out, council starts in 13 minutes, and we have 2 items to go. Just want to do a clock check
I'm
for you.
trying to get a motion.
Yes, sir.
The motion's
No
on the floor already. I'm just getting a vote on it.
There's no vote, it's just discussion.
It's just discussion.
It's just discussion, there's no vote.
Right.
It wasn't necessary, you just had to bring it to the floor.
Move on, number 15.
Go to 15.
No, why would I put a motion on the floor and not vote on it?
Just to hold discussion.
That's all? I didn't even vote on it for discussion, but go ahead. That's all right. Number 15, Ms. Flake. Yes.
Okay, I'll be quick. These are our last 2. Do you want to?
Oh, yeah, let me put a motion on the
Okay.
floor. Do I have a motion, an ordinance authorizing the county administrator to execute the necessary documents and provide funding for the development rights purchase of real property identified as tax map, whatever those numbers, known as Seaside Road, PDR?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, go
Okay.
ahead. Oh,
All right.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Ms. McKellen?
McKellen, right.
Yeah. And Ms. Howard seconded. Okay, go ahead.
We got a whole meeting to go.
I know.
All right, this property is located off of Seaside Road, and it's a current pecan grove, about 9.36 acres. This one has come before y'all before for due diligence, and then was voted on by the Rural and Critical Board on November 14th for purchase. It is going to protect active farmland, inland marsh migration, and a farming corridor off of Seaside Road. It's also near some properties we already own or have conservation easements along Seaside Road as well. And the purchase price for this is $374,000.
Okay, any further discussion? Those who are in favor of the motion that's set before us, please indicate by raising their hand. And it is unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Passman. And number 16, an ordinance authorizing the county administrator to execute the necessary documents and provide funding for the fee simple purchase of real property identified as tax map serial number and is known as the Davis Road fee.
Yes, okay, and this one's been around for a little bit, but it's about 40, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I need a motion, that's right.
I'm trying to go quick.
Tab has made the motion. This is your district, right? Okay.
No, it's Mr. Cunningham's district, but it's right by me.
Okay, you gonna second it?
I will second.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so this one's been around a little bit, but it's 40.7 acres. It is between two properties we already own, New Leaf and the Okatee Preserve. It is also on the headwaters of the Okatee River. We tried purchasing it before, and then it got sold to a different buyer, but it has now come back, and the Rural and Critical Board approved this in November as well, with a 10% above appraised value due to the difference in, because the current owner purchased the property in 2019 for $1.4 million and it appraised at $780, so we are offering 10% above, which is $858.
The bargain. Any further discussion?
Said you're doing 10% over appraised value?
Yes.
Yeah. But it's still under.
Yes.
Yeah. Those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising their hand. Okay, in opposition, Mr. Dawson is in opposition. Okay. That exhausted our agenda. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Under the wire, you're.